What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got another episode of The Drive-In, where I review recently released movies that are just in theaters or just released to video on demand, and I tell you guys whether they are worth watching, waiting for later on down the road, or skipping altogether. Today I've got another 2019 release, and it is one of the most ballyhooed and excited 2019 releases in a long time. It is Haunt. Haunt was talked about heavily in the festival circuit back in August, and it was coming out to the Shudder streaming service. If you guys don't have Shudder, go get it. It's like $5 a month. It is the horror Netflix. They have original content. They're great. But Haunt came out to Shudder this past October, so this film has been out overall since August, but officially hit video on demand this past October, last month, and I watched it, and I wanted to review it for you guys today on The Drive-In. It's a 2019 release, and it is a haunted house horror, which has become really popular in the public eye again since last year. I love haunted house horror. I love the whole ambiance of the haunted house when kids go to try to scare themselves and each other on Halloween night. They go to a haunted house. There's nice set decoration, and of course, more times than not, it winds up being with the haunted house, winds up being real for one reason or another, and these kids get slaughtered. This is kind of in the vein of 2018's Hellfest or Bloodfest, if you've seen either of those. I am a huge fan of both of those, so I was very excited to watch 2019's Haunt, and here is my review. I'm going to start this thing spoiler-free as usual, and then I will give you guys my spoiler thoughts afterwards if you guys haven't seen it and want to check it out still. So Haunt was written and directed by the team of Scott Beck and Brian Woods. They are the same team that wrote and directed A Quiet Place, which came out last year and was very popular. I thought A Quiet Place was a little overrated. I liked a lot of things about it, but my experience was a little ruined by the fact that I did not see it in theaters, so I didn't get the full surround sound scope. But I like what Beck and Woods did in that movie, and so I was looking forward to seeing what they would do for this. Also, this was executive produced by Eli Roth, who is a master of modern horror. I'm a huge fan of his. So the right team was behind this. It is starring Katie Stevens, Will Brittain, and Lauren McLean. And if you guys know Katie Stevens, she was from American Idol. She was on the popular singing show, reality show, and she was also a lead actress in the MTV short-lived, I think 2 or 3 season kind of drama sitcom about two best friends who become lesbian romantic interests and sort of try to hide their love for each other. So Katie Stevens is a young breakout star. She leads off my positives here. I thought she was a great final girl, so to speak. This story, essentially without giving too much away, it's your standard friends gather together on Halloween night looking for something to do, wind up going to this crazy off-the-beaten-path haunted house where things seem kind of dead, but they want to explore. They go into this haunted house. Things become all too real, and they wind up trying to fight and survive this haunted house for their lives. So that's pretty much the plot. It's a little derivative. It's not super original, but all these movies kind of have their niche because it all changes based on the actors, how strong the acting is, the cinematography, the way things are colored, the design of the haunted house, and the different characters they use in the haunted houses. And that's where the strong points of this movie are. Katie Stevens is a strong final girl. The acting for the most part is pretty solid, but Katie especially is a really good actress. She's strong. She fits the final girl mold very well in this. She's the only character that has really a backstory of any sort. She's just getting over her bad abusive ex-boyfriend. She's kind of in and out of this bad relationship, and she's looking to get over it. So she goes to this haunted house and meets a potentially new, interesting love interest, and has to deal with the remnants of these crazy killers stalking the halls of this haunted house. Her friends are fine, decent actors, but there's not much character behind them. The haunted house, again, is solid. It's shot very well. I love the way the camera moves in this. There's some good still shots. There's some good roaming shots. They do a nice job moving the camera around. The coloring and cinematography, and especially the location, is nice. They have a nice way of making this haunted house feel very secluded, very kind of gritty. There's different themed rooms in this haunted house. One where you have to stick your hands in this trap and see what comes out. Some of the different characters are kind of cool. There's just some quiet characters that You can't tell whether they're working with the haunted house or against it, or if they know what's going on or if they don't. So there's some nice character ambiguity there. I like that. The story progresses fairly nicely in terms of Katie. You see some flashbacks with Katie and what she went through in her childhood and how she tries to survive it in modern day. But without giving any spoilers away, that's pretty much where the positives end. This was a good premise that was fairly well executed, but in terms of backstory, we don't get a lot. There's not a lot of story to make this stand out from the other standout 2018 haunted house films. The killers in this movie are way too weak. Without giving anything away too much, they just take a beating. These little scrawny teens beat up these killers way too much. The killers get their butts kicked for most of this movie. Some scenes, the killers have these teens dead to rights, and the teens just throw punches or kicks or whatever, and just kind of get the best of the killers too much. In order for these movies to work, you have to fear the killers. You have to give each one of the characters of the haunted house different abilities and different motives, and have to make them deadly and scary and seem terrifying so that you're cheering for the kids to survive. They never build up these killers with a backstory and a reasoning for why they're doing this, or with any kind of unique abilities or strengths or anything. So not only do we not know why these killers are doing what they're doing, or what the reason for this haunted house existing and tormenting kids is, but more so, the killers just get beat up too much. There's never really any threat or fear of the killers getting to the characters, because the killers are just getting beat on the whole time. So they didn't do a nice job of building any tension or building up who the killers are. So the backstory and the killers being too weak took away from this in a major way. So I guess that's the last thing that I can give you guys without spoilers. All in all, I would give this movie, let's say, a 6 out of 10. I think it's good. I think all these haunted house movies are fun. I think it looks nice, it's well designed, and it's an easy, mindless, fun ride, and the main character is worth watching for. But other than that, there's no backstory, and the killers are not to be feared very much. Also, at one point, I guess we'll get into spoilers now, so if you have not seen it, stop this review and go watch the movie. I'm going to start spoiling now. The one killer kind of reveals himself and says that he's not with the haunted house. He didn't know this was happening, and then he winds up turning on the characters and being with the bad guys anyway. But they never explain anything about his character. They also, the characters make a deal with this killer to go through one of the traps first and go back through the house, and they just don't follow through with it. And he winds up turning on them anyway, so that the main characters look really stupid for trusting this guy and not following through on their plan. They just separate and split themselves up. And there's one particular area where they're crawling through this crawl space, and 3 characters earlier in the movie fit through that crawl space, and they go through one at a time because they say they can't all fit. So instead of going through 2 or 3 at a time like they had earlier, they separate and go through one at a time and get themselves picked off, which is very stupid. They find themselves alone in situations where they didn't have to be alone. So they look kind of dumb there. And also, they survive a lot of torment. At one point, the one character gets shot right in the chest and kind of gets right back up and just like kicks one of the killers over and beats on them and like slams a door on their head. And like they don't even sell the bullet wound. The bullet doesn't have any effect on them. They just kind of walk through the bullet. They also have a scene where this alcoholic, abusive, bad boyfriend kind of comes in to save the day. They build up for like 20 minutes, the boyfriend going to track down the girl and try to save her. So you're like, wait, are they going to make the abusive alcoholic guy the savior of all this? This is bad character development. And then after all the build-up, he just gets there and gets killed within like a minute anyway. He walks in the building and gets murdered. So you're like, wait, they framed that in a very weird, strange way for this character. And then after all the build-up, he just dies right away and nothing happens. And you're like, what was the point of the last 20 minutes of all this build-up for him to be killed off very easily? And then at the ending, it's just inconceivable. This ending makes no sense. They wind up, the one main character survives, and they just sort of time jump to where the main character has their IDs, and the killer goes back to the characters' houses, and she just waits for him and kills him. So there's no sense of time. We don't know when this happened. We just cut to a random time when the main character realizes the killer's going to go to her house. She heals from the hospital, goes back to the house, and shoots the killer. So there's just a random time jump that's inconceivable and makes really no sense and just jumps ahead for no reason to a really random ending. So weird ending and some weird logic choices and build-ups they wasted in this. where this movie could have been special, but it winds up just being kind of an average movie. So again, definitely some good things, some solid writing in there, some solid characters in there, nice idea, nice backgrounds and cinematography, but just poor execution with the decisions, the build-up of the killers, no real backstory, and some weird choices, especially with a weird ending. So, all in all, decent movie, but nothing special. I would give this, again, 6 out of 10. So if you want to check it out, it's on Shudder right now. Go get Shudder and go check this out. And let me know in the comments below what else you guys want to see from me. I've got more movies to review coming up, and I want to give you guys an October video of what I did work-wise. And also, if you want to see more drive-in style reviews, I do some journalism over at pophorror.com. So go to Pop Horror and type in Jason Burke and check out my reviews. And I will be coming back again tomorrow with another drive-in review. So check me out soon, guys. Stay scared. Take care.